What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to install the SW Motech engine guard bars on a 2014 Triumph Scrambler.
Tiny Triumph shop.
Tiny Triumph shop.
Woo! We's installing something.
We're over on the clutch side of the bike and we're taking a look at the mounting points for the bars. We've got a mounting point here, we've got another right here, and then finally 2 bolts go on right here. I purchased this bike with the bash plate installed, and it's good kit. But if you look very closely, you can see that the bash plate is actually not powder coated black. This is just spray paint, and I think it's absolute rubbish. Now my thought is that the bars will actually be compatible with this bash plate, and I'm going to have to take this off before I can install the crash bars. The bash plate is installed with 2 bolts here, and then 2 additional bolts on the underside. Now these front bolts appear to be T40 Torx bits. I've got my ratchet set up, so let's get cracking.
Ding!
Now we'll move to the underside of the bike and get these last 2 bolts.
Zoop.
Now it's time to take off the last bit of mounting hardware for the plate. We have a couple of 12mm bolts holding this bracket on here.
Ding!
Now, per the instructions, we're told to go ahead and remove all of these bolts.
Bam!
In addition, we need to remove this top bolt here.
Zoop!
And finally, this engine mount bolt here. I'm going to put the bike into first gear to keep it from moving around, because I really need to crank on this to get this loose.
Ding! Sweet!
Per the instructions, we're supposed to install the brake side engine guard bar first, but I'm going to go ahead and do this side because the pipes aren't in the way. I think it's going to be a bit easier. We want to apply some thread locker to these threads. Again, this bolt here is a frame mount thread, and the bolt here actually holds the engine in place. It's very important that these don't come loose while we're riding the bike.
Ding!
Now I'm not going to over tighten this bolt. I'd like the bars to have some play on them so I can move them around and get them lined up exactly where they need to be. One of the questions we were curious about with these particular engine guard bars is, are they compatible with the bash plate? I think they are. So per instruction, we're supposed to take these bolts, which replaced the original shorter bolts that mounted this small metal plate to the frame here. Now if you remember, the bash plate was mounted above this with another piece of hardware that sort of offset this out to allow the bash plate to mount in front of these frame tubes. I think that if we are to use these included spacers, which help set or offset the crash bars from these frame mounting points, that we could use the spacers, follow that with the bash plate, and then end up mounting the bash plate just under these supports for the engine guard bar. So that is what I'm going to try.
Zoop!
Yeah, I actually think that's perfect, and I don't know if you can see, but the bottom hole for this bracket actually lines up with the hole that's already in the plate anyways. So we're good to go. I don't even have to modify this at all to make this work. I've got this set up temporarily, but you can see clearly that you can use these crash bars with the bash plate. We can now answer the question that everybody's been dying to know, and that is, can you install these engine guard bars with an Arrow 2-1 high side pipe installed? As we move this into position, you can see the answer is a very clear yes. Now, I'm getting some tautness in this area where the oil cooler is actually pushing against the bracket. I'm going to assume it's just because the oil cooler is mounted a little cockeyed that's causing this issue, because I did not have that problem on the other side. So I'm just going to loosen these 2 bolts and see if I can't move this up just a bit. Okay, the oil cooler is now free to move around as much as it can with the stock mounts. This is a pretty tight fit, but I do think loosening the oil cooler has enabled me to get the engine bar exactly where it needs to be. I can confirm by running this bolt through the engine mount. Now I'm going to pull in tight, and you can probably see that the crash bars mounted up pretty close to the exhaust, but not too close that I'm worried about it. There's probably about a 2 mil gap here. be some heat transfer from the header to the crash bar, and I'll have to keep an eye on that.
Yep, she's done.
After installing the engine guard bars, it's clear that this sump guard can coexist with the bars. However, it's a little tricky to actually get mounted. There's a lot of moving pieces with the spacers, the original plate that sits between the frame, and then the engine guard bars themselves. Now, I could cut essentially a space out of this sump guard to make room for the engine guard bars and allow this plate to mount over the engine guard bars. Thing is, I don't really want to. This sump guard is perfectly fine. I think I'm going to sell it because there's another brand of sump guard, a bash plate, that's actually much narrower up the top. It has 4 mounting points pre-drilled into the guard, and it's cut out almost to fit in between the 2 frame tubes. I've opted to purchase that instead, and when it gets in, I'll see if that's not easier to install over the engine bars themselves.
Bonus round.
Right, well, if you were one of the cool people that actually stayed with me through this video, I've got a little something to show you. And if not, you can go yourself. So, this is one of the things that I wish I knew before I actually purchased this kit, and it's not a bad thing, it's actually a really good thing. What do you not notice from this angle? Well, that would be the crash bars. Man, I just don't really understand why none of the manufacturer pictures really show how neatly these bars hug the lines of the bike. Now, I also own a Thruxton, and putting crash bars on a cafe racer is, well, sacrilegious, so I never would. But I gotta say, if I ran a Bonneville, I'd be pretty happy with these installed. They look really, really sharp. And I mean, you probably could pretty easily mount some highway pegs on these. It's a pretty good position, actually, particularly for a Bonneville that didn't have, the headers here. That'd be a bit close on your right leg. But yeah, there you have it.
Oh my god.